Boom. Light mode for our third and final review of the night. G2 versus Fnatic. The match of the week, the match of the century, the match of matches. Very, very hyped matchup between cool stat from Quickshot, a quick stat even. The teams that have picked up 11 of the 12 victories ever for, 12 of the 13 ever for the LEC and EULCS, the only other being Alliance. Thank you, chat, for reminding me of which Elements / Evil Geniuses / CLG EU refresh that was way back when. And there were some things I wanted to talk about. I have to remember what it was I wanted to talk about between spring and summer. Yes, so the biggest topic for me is to talk about what happened between spring and summer for Fnatic, because I think Fnatic, just from what I saw them play before this match, like this match had everyone predicting G2, and it's hard not to predict the MSI winners as the winners of every game and 16-0 split. But I think on the course of how they were playing, Fnatic were playing much better League of Legends than G2 over the course of summer. G2 was doing it in their style, more flashy, more chaotic, sometimes easier on the eyes, but I think Fnatic have adjusted their playstyle in a pretty impressive way. And I think the stats bear it out. So the one I want to show you guys here is one that I talked about a lot coming into MSI when I was doing my ranking of regions, which was combined kills per minute. So how many champions are being killed in games with a certain team? So G2 Esports were up there, close to the LPL numbers. In this game is over 1. So super bloody games, 20 minutes into the game, it'll be 10 to 10 in kills in the LPL on average. In G2 games, we're pretty close to 1 combined kill per minute. 18 games, thank you. Yes, I can apparently not read. But over the course of the spring to summer transition, you'll notice a change. Like Fnatic was pretty close to bottom of the table, 0.6 combined kills per minute, so 0.07 below the bottom. Obviously significantly different from G2 and how fast they were playing games. And otherwise, stats were going to be very impressive for G2. Short average game time. Fnatic, pretty similar, you'll notice, actually. The game timing difference, not that different between Fnatic and G2. This is also biased by the fact that Fnatic was on a huge losing streak before they turned things around. But in general, you can see the stats weren't super kind to Fnatic. Now that Fnatic have been able to double down and go from there, look at how things have changed. G2 have been playing epically bloody. Like 1.2 is pretty much team deathmatch level of bloody. I've never seen 1.19 6 weeks into the game, 6 weeks into the season. But Fnatic is also playing a pretty proactive style. There's more kills in the game. There's more action in their games. Their gold numbers are way up, right? 1288 goal difference of 15 from 528 in spring season. All indicators for them way up. First blood percentage, 83%. Compared to 56% is actually kind of, 67%, is quietly the biggest jump here because it means that they have first blood in 5 out of the 6 games they've played. Joint first, as you'll see with SK. And while they were decent in spring, leveling up to this point, and just the way they've been able to integrate Broxah's role in the team has changed a lot. And I think Broxah, I would imagine Broxah is enjoying life more now than he might have, even at times when jungling for caps, because his role in summer has definitely changed. There was so much frustration in his voice when he would be interviewed in spring season especially, that I think is attributed to a change in play style for Fnatic that has been easier on the eyes, but also, I wanted to point out, statistically more impressive team than they were in the past. I've already pumped the volume up a bit. I'm going to speak a little bit louder instead of changing the volume again just to keep it equal for today. But I always kind of pump it up 5% a stream and people are still upset, so sorry for that. I'm going to have some water. It's hot here. So, we get to the game at hand. And let's try and judge this one on a couple of different parameters. Like, I think it's very easy to come out of this game thinking that G2 just ran it down, or G2 was just trolling, or it was just a draft. There's lots of, what's the word? What do you call these? There's like, there's lots of declarative statements you can make that, like, I can't refute completely, right? Like, if you say that, I'm like, I think it was more than that. But on one watch, without reviewing, without rewinding, you're not categorically wrong. But let's try and review this open-minded to areas where G2 might have done some good or cool stuff, how G2 could have won, and then, again, drill down on the mistakes they made. But let's also reward Fnatic, whose side, and specifically through Broxa, whose side, like their side of the coin, they did a lot of great stuff this game. So let's try. I know that G2 and Fnatic have very impassioned fan bases. The Fnatic fan base is huge, just like SKT's, but has had to deal with like their annoying cousin winning things internationally, and now wants to come in and be like, no, it's all us. And the G2 side, they have a very fun-loving kind of public image right now, like still the villains, but the villains that won, like the anti-heroes, I guess. So they, you know, have done a lot of talk about playing teamfight tactics and not prepping, and like 16-0 is going to be easy. So they do deserve to jump down a peg, but also, you know, there's two sides to every coin that I think we should talk about here. So given the fan bases, this is probably going to be a charged review, but let's try and work out what we can learn from it is kind of our lens here today. So we check out for bans. Fnatic with very boring cookie cutter bans on red side. Very often the red side bans involve some semblance of Karma, Sejuani, Sona, but that's pretty normal bans, right? It feels like Sejuani Karma is permabanned on red side. Blue side bans, Teamfight, Tool, Xayah Rakan, Denial, so they're very worried about a first round Xayah or Rakan pick, and then just a reckless ban with the Sivers. So interesting approach so far. So it's, the Yuumi priority here is super high on the side of G2. It's hard to say why. It feels like the Yuumi lanes that have performed have kind of been cheesy stuff, like Yuumi Pyke, or Yuumi Lucian. But, so you kind of imagine, all right, taking away Xayah Rakan for a safe lane against almost any Yuumi lane, taking away Sivir so that Sivir Lux can't be the answer, this Yuumi lane is going to be our way to hard carry. It's kind of what I expect from this first pick Yuumi, because it's a bit suspicious in terms of its timing. Chat saying Mickey said it was the most broken champion. I think everyone knows it's the most broken champion in the game, but actually seeing results from it and actually winning 2v2 from it reliably hasn't necessarily bore out in pro play. So I think while it is very powerful, I'm not willing to just say, all right, yeah, it's just as OP as we thought. It's always a first pick. Like, it's fallen down in drafts a lot of times in multiple regions. So I think it was still pretty notable that it was first pick there. And to get it as first pick, they have to give up a lot. Like, they give up Karma Pyke. And I wasn't aware, but they talked about how this was a duo lane that was played on stream by the duo. So it's a full duo. But just Karma power level on this patch is pretty insanely high, especially in solo lanes. And Karma Pyke duo, which they played on stream, is something they're trying out, something a bit different. And it kind of negates Yuumi, right? Because like Pyke is actually really strong against Yuumi in general, because you all in the one person, you're more likely to hit your hook, especially now that you can't tank CC. Now that you can't tank CC as easily with the changes on 9-12, and then one kill always means two, right? Because there's nothing the poor defenseless cat can do after the fact. And it ends up just being Yuumi Ezreal, which is a pretty ultra defensive Yuumi lane. Like I know this, people have been talking about this as a strong lane, but in LCK this lane has performed pretty poorly when it comes to lane presence. And while it's defensive and safe and can do some aggressive stuff, I think the jury's still out on Yuumi Ezreal as one of the best lanes there. And they also take Akali, which we just saw had a pop-off performance in the LCK, but it does feel like it's kind of like marginal things were gained here by G2, and Fnatic get a lot of power, And they end the draft with something cool, right? They take down the Twisted Fate here. Been a pick that Nemesis has already shown. I'm a pretty big fan of 80 Twisted Fate and how maneuverable it can be through multiple draft types. That's why I was so surprised to see Crown and the one other Twisted Fate user that we had early in the season go Ability Power before we saw the AD side come out. It's definitely a pick that, you know, isn't a conventional answer to Akali. Like if it's APTF, you definitely don't see it. But the fact that you can itemize into magic resist, the fact that the Phage gives you a bit of health early, the fact that you can still just try to play away from the lane. It's like a creative way to dodge Akali, but it's not an ideal way to deal with the lane. However, it can split open the map in pretty impressive ways. I think it is able to answer Akali in many stages, the 1v1 in side lanes. So I think it's a really cool draft from Fnatic, a really cool first round that if G2 ever expected Karma and Pyke duo lane, then their bans are wrong. I'm going to assume they never expected it before they actually saw it locked in. But I would guess they put no... They couldn't have anticipated this first round because I just feel like this ends up then just being a second best draft overall. So it's kind of a really interesting thing to think about here. That the mind games are pretty real from Fnatic here because it does negate some of the other things they did. They did from my check. Was this before Karma and Pyke were even hovered? Like, how early did they call Karma Pyke bot lane? I understand when it's both locked in, they could be calling it, but did they say after the Yuumi pick, oh, we're expecting Karma and Pyke? So yeah, I mean, after the lock-in, I think that's fine. I think if at this point in the draft, they called Karma Pyke were going to be prioritized first round, then it's a bad draft by G2. But my guess is they see both those and then say, they were playing on stream, it's probably going to be Karma Pyke. But what I'm trying to say is that when that's locked in, the way to salvage this bot lane, so this first round is actually kind of tough. At the moment this happens, like, what Yuumi lane do you run here? We're not going to be on the roaming crew with Pyke. If you think it's going to be bot lane, this lane has Karma with just the most lane presence ever, and can negate a lot of the poke coming through from Yuumi. Like, the moment it's this kind of cheesy all-in lane where if you don't have jungle counter pick, if the enemy has jungle counter pick as well, it's like that lane has all-in, burst, shielding, and gank assist. There's a lot of gank assist in this lane. Like, there's not a lot of good choices. Ezreal's the safest because it's like, all right, if they play bot side, maybe I can just arcane shift away. The only thing I could see here, you could try Lucian and then just gank the lane a lot, but who knows what their plan was with the rest of the map. The reason why I bring up, and it doesn't invalidate the mic checkpoint, is that the moment this happens, your good options here are like Lucian and gank it, Ezreal and try to have level 2 first and try to find priority. Like, it actually gets really hard. It gets really hard to interact with this draft from this point onwards. It's kind of the point I'm making. People in chat talking about Yasuo. Yasuo Gragas actually worked really well in the LCK, but I think Yuumi Yasuo is too hard to pull off here because you have very little lane presence from the Yasuo side when wall is down. So, Yasuo's banned. Good point. Well, there you go. Never mind. But yeah, I feel like they just ran out of good options here. And then Twisted Fate has amusingly always been a strong champion into Ezreal because Gold Card is one of the few reliable ways to actually lock him down. And it's a regular ability, not an ultimate. Not a lot of regular abilities make Ezreal accountable. Grab said in PGL they weren't expecting Fnatic to have the balls to pick Pyke. That comment alone tells you they just didn't see Karma Pyke first round coming. And then suddenly the Yuumi Pyke was gone, and all the Yuumi answers to this duo lane were gone. So shout out to Fnatic drafting coach. It was really well done there in prepping for that. The Twisted Fate makes Ezreal accountable on a regular ability, which is pretty big here. And it gives them attack damage. Good point in chat. Reckless said TF pick. I gave them AD. Good point. Something that I would have considered when we saw all the 5 champions again. Because honestly, I actually forget most drafts, even after I've watched the games. But in hindsight, gives them 80 damage. So, for the first round here, you're liking the bot lane unless Ezreal and Yuumi go straight to lane and get like a level advantage from the start. But Karma can reset lanes and push and pull so well. The early lane Twisted Fate is better than AP Twisted Fate, but obviously it's not going to be like doing too much against Akali. The Gragas draft here, interesting. What's up and what's not? Gragas blind pick jungle with Aatrox potentially as jungle. I know we don't see it a lot in the LEC. Lee Sin gone, Sejuani gone. I think of blind pick junglers here, I actually do like the Gragas blind the most. I'm really a big hater on Skarner blind pick. You hear me talking about this all the time in the LCK. I feel like it has a lot of bad matchups. Olaf would be one that you would see in the LCK a lot in this spot. I actually think Olaf is absolutely not bad at all in this game, but I guess they wanted a bit more guaranteed engage, and the displacement back into team fights, like aggressive casks here, just makes Pyke's life a bit easier, so I don't hate it. As a Gragas, it's kind of like the team fighting choice, but gives up a little bit of early power. Flexible solo lanes and Olaf. So a lot of power in the solo lanes here from G2. I think they're looking to cause a lot of disarray. This becomes a really interesting draft as it goes along, because it ends up being priority bot most likely to Karma Pyke outside of very early trades where Ezreal and Yuumi just can use their range advantage in the quick race to level 2. Gank assist advantage for sure on this side, but if nothing happens, I guess you just let the Ezreal and Yuumi to chip out. Kali versus TF. All-in potential at 6. Otherwise, ADTF can farm pretty decently, and Akali usually has wave control. Like, TF finds it very hard to fully push a lane into the turret early, even leveling up Q first. So Akali usually gets kind of a good lane positioning. So level 6, you kind of want your jungler to help come and push, or you want to be on a recall from the Twisted Fate. Top lane, Renekton's a pretty hard counter to Aurelia in the 1v1. It's actually really tricky to try to run Aurelia into Renekton. Now, I know that ends up being lane swap hijinks in the game, but Renekton is mostly picked to just dominate Aurelia wherever she goes, just because Aurelia has to hit skill shots and early game base damages. Renekton will always win the trade, basically, in the 1v1. So I think laning-wise, you got this you feel really good about. You got this that stabilizes and then gets advantage ahead of this eventually. And then Twisted Fate can be hidden pretty well in terms of most matchups. So I think you feel pretty good about a lot of these things. Renekton versus Akali, I think Renekton loses out on guaranteed damage a lot if Shroud is used intelligently. So I think you definitely much rather Akali versus Renekton than Aurelia, and I believe that's the swap they end up going for. But the comp here from G2 is not bad. It's just G2 almost always gets wins in draft. Like, so often you can be like, oh, this is how with this draft they get their wins, usually around the mid game. But in this game, G2 don't have any obvious wins. They have level 6 Akali all in onto TF if that was the lane matchup. They've got, if the Olaf gets the solo lane snowballed, they can try to win by just playing topside. That's the most realistic way they win this draft. And you say Olaf greater than Gragas. These lanes, Aurelia and Akali, were dominant at Worlds for a reason. Flexible, and because with one kill, they can snowball over the top. Gunblade timing comes in early, even Renekton's at worry. Aurelia getting a good start can get some kills there as well. But G2 need topside to get ahead to make this draft work. Meanwhile, Fnatic can do a lot of interesting things, because when Twisted Fate gets strong enough to not just get one pop by Akali, the amount of flexible lane assignments they have where they have leads and then Karma Pyke flying in to get kills is actually pretty super high. So I had a question about level 1. We should look at level 1 a bit closer. So it's a defensive start from... They're expecting Fnatic to invade bot side pretty clearly. It's a 4-man defense. Twisted Fate level 1, underrated to talk about. It's guaranteed stun if you enter the brush, so you need a vision advantage against the TF late invade. Otherwise, you just get stunned and die. So they protect the bot side here, and then Olaf will just start alone on his blue. Ezreal Yuumi have to hit the wave first, otherwise we mentioned if you lose level 2 race to Karma and Pyke, there's a chance you just kind of lose all ends up in this matchup. So you definitely have to hit lane early as that's why there's no leash for the Olaf. I guess G2 wanted to guarantee that they hit the wave first, and also that there was no deep vision on, say, a Krug camp, for example, to get information on Olaf's pathing. That's my read on why the level 1 happened. The lane swap here is an interesting one. So a lot of the reasons that Akali can deal with the Renekton are after level 1, obviously. Like, level 1 is where Renekton is really powerful, and Caps really misplays this, so we should watch the top lane. Caps is 1 minion behind where he thinks he is. Like, if you notice what happens here, you can look at minion score to understand this. At this point, Caps assumes that he's at equal minions, but actually we all know 7 minions gives you level 2, because the first melee minion of the second wave gives you level 2. And Caps only has 4 minions experience. Now, there's a chance, of course, that he thought he had experience for a further minion that he didn't last hit, but like, Renekton wins the race quickly to level 2, just walks up and bodies Caps out of lane and gets a solo kill. Like, that already is a Caps mistake. This is what we used to see when we first started having changes in lane assignments. If you remember, when mid laners started going top and top laners started going mid for lanes, we had games where Grace from Jin Air would go top lane and not know how to play a long lane and just heavily misplay a trade. That's basically what we just saw happen there from Caps. Like, neither laner has Ignite, and it's an all-in under turret level 2 kill because Caps misread the lane. So that's really poor from him. Brox is starting a turret dive. This is really cool pathing from him. So this pathing from Broxa is very unique. Let's talk about this play. Like, this is not Caps reading that he's about to be dived and outplaying Bwipo. Like, that's what happens in hindsight, but actually Caps thinks there's no chance the enemy jungler is going to be around. The reason for that is that we talk about this all the time. Remember that Gragas is a Predator jungler, so at 3 minutes, you don't respect Predator jungler turret dives or Predator jungler ganks because he has no keystone without backing. So you don't normally see a Gragas hit the rift before 4 minutes. In our second review of the night, Kingzone versus Damwon, we talked about how we wanted to see Cuz go for around a 3-minute gank or a 3-minute dive to try to just tilt Damwon, who were in a kind of a weak position mentally after losing game number 2 in a throw. What you see from Broxa is kind of the new pathing we see from Korean junglers more often than not. And you can't do this every time, and there will continue to be a meta. But Broxa does blue buff take into red buff take into Krugs for guaranteeing both big camps and then threatening a dive. You see in chat people talk about how Jankos were calling it. All I can tell you is that Jankos was probably calling it's possible because Jankos doesn't actually have any forward vision to see any of the camps that were taken. All he knows is there was a blue buff leash. Now, there's always the chance that it's an ultra next level where he says, okay, I'm Jankos. Why would Karma Pyke give over lane control to Ezreal and Yuumi just to leash for a jungler who can take it without a leash? Maybe he's going for a 3-camp turret dive on top side with a grouped minion wave. Like, that's the most next level call of suspicious leash timing that the duo lane would want to fight. It's Reckless is normally about his duo lane. Therefore, it's going to be a turret dive with a grouped minion wave. But remember, there was a solo kill in the lane beforehand, And the group minion wave only happens because of the minion wave breakpoints after the teleport back into lane. So I feel like that's too big brain. If it did happen, apologies to Yankos, you're actually just a god of being able to call the future. But if they were saying it could be a dive and then the dive happens, it's not quite the same as it's going to be a dive. I read this far ahead and then the dive comes off. But Caps is playing around what he knows, which is killing the opponent. He gets the 1v1 here because, of course, no shopping trip came in. And then Broxah, 3-minute 20, not a normal gank timing by a Predator Gragas at all. Really nice stuff for Broxah to be there. So from Broxah's side, you just say, decided to get a leash, got the leash into 3 camps into dive. Really nicely done from him there. Can I also just point something out small? Remember that, it's AD Twisted Fate. You don't really feel the AD that early, right? Because Twisted Fate still puts in multiple points into his wildcards early for lane pressure. This actually lane swap suits G2 in a unique way in that if you swap into mid lane as the Aurelia, you do actually, increasingly over the lane, get to relieve some pressure with your W. Your W does work because it's not... The reduction of magic damage removal isn't going to be as felt against ADTF than it is against APTF. But let's watch how this point starts, because this dive comes in. See how the dive happens. So Gragas and Olaf meet, and Broxah just comes in and clears out a control ward. That part, pretty clear. But the Pike roam timing here from Hylissang is actually really smart. And Wonder's probably being called that a dive could happen, but he doesn't know which side to hug. If you look at the lane spot here, Wonder's playing as if he's expecting bot side roam, because obviously missing was called. And the fact that Broxah comes in at the same time is like not revolutionary, but it's assertive. The cool thing from a Fnatic side you should take away from this is that it's very clear that at this point, the call is gotten from Wonder that bot side could be coming and Hylissang could be there. But Broxah, even though he was spotted head-to-head, runs straight in, knowing that's Olaf's side of the jungle, and turret dives anyway. So basically what you should take away is Wonder played around the Hylissang roam, didn't play around also Broxah in one single stride, invading for another turret dive and another successful gank pre-first back timing, pre-Predator. He still doesn't have his Predator, because he still isn't able to use it. Jankos threatening a turret dive here. The Jankos dive timing there is pretty good too. But like Broxah's been so much on the map early before first item on Gragas, when most Gragas games, like for example the Gragas game we saw from Colors, are a lot more controlled. He flashed. I missed the flash. Let's go back to the flash. He flashes for Predator speed. I mean, I think that's probably fine, right? It's a no flash for Nectin. Like, you feel bad that it didn't happen, and it's I guess, it now has to be second class compared to Broxah just being there without having to flash in those ways, but yeah. Watch the ref. I missed the ref. Oh, I don't know which ref I'm supposed to be looking at. Definitely high action game. He dies if he E's, yes, but he didn't want to take those extra turret shots, so yeah. Walking up to a Renekton to E is a query that perhaps you shouldn't go the way of. So, first 5 minutes are in. Not a long review, so we should kind of understand. What are our thoughts as chat, and I'll share my thoughts as well, about the level of Fiesta and poor play so far. So far, I think it's fair to put at the feet of Caps. Shouldn't have been solo killed. Like, that was obviously really poor from Caps. He returns to lane. He's aware he could be dived, but it's an unlikely dive timing because it's a Predator Gragas, and he turns and kills a Renekton. I thought that play was really... Getting a 1-for-1 out of that play, most Akali's would just stay defensive, not get the 1, and just die for a second time. So I think that was a good play from him. Brox has clearly been super on form in this game. Don't you think Brox's early game is a little bit dicey? If he doesn't make those ganks work, he falls super behind in farming experience. I think it's always going to be super hindsight on pathing with a jungle like Gragas that can fall behind. I'm a big fan of his read of the top side and thinking there was a turret dive there with the Renekton for a 2-for-0 and ending up getting a 1-for-1. Like, I think Akali dies every time in the timing he was top side. I think the mid lane play, either you go straight on and commit to it because Hylissang's roamed up and you're going to absolutely go for it, or you pull out very early and go back to farming as the Gragas. And I appreciate how decisive he was around a call, whether it was his or his teammates. So I'm going to come away and say that I think Broxer did it well, but that's only my opinion on those plays. I can understand if another jungler watched it and was like, no, that was too risky. It was a 30% play. Shouldn't have done it. So that's kind of my taking there. But all I would say, like, the level of Fiesta in these first 5 minutes, I think, is only on the Caps solo kill. I think you could also group the Jankos flashover as a bit of a desperation thing. But I think overall, it's been very interesting first 5 minutes. Now I'm watching a bit closer. In live, it just felt like one large kind of team deathmatch game. Very nice early game stats, obviously, for Fnatic. G2's early game, yeah, that we kind of tried to counter the thought that G2's early game was so super back at MSI. Like, their mid game is usually where they find their big leads. What's Caps doing here? So Caps goes to kill a control ward, seeing level 6 Nemesis walk up. He's kind of just instantly screwed. So why did he feel safe enough to try to clear this? He pushed in one wave. Gragas was already around. Ugh. What was Brox's original plan here? So Brox is just actually going for a top lane camp. That's why he's already there. Not spotted on any of the vision. Body slam over the wall. So he's coming for a wraparound gank after his time has come up, and then is just guaranteed a kill here. So it's just another really good point to come in from Broxer. Like, this is a very hard gank to pull off without showing, because how much of the vision placed from Fnatic, from G2, was in vision? I'm trying to see when this ward was placed. So that ward was placed in vision. Olaf put down the ward in vision of Gragas taking the Raptors ages ago. So Gragas knows the Raptors ward is there. He knows that the river has a ward. And he goes for the longest wraparound that guarantees he won't be spotted, but also provides a gank target top. Now, you could just go straight through the tri-brush, but the extra angle you get from going this way is the sort of thing where, knowing Caps is coming out of base, if he goes for a pixel brush ward, which is very likely. The reason why this is a pretty smart play is that when Caps enters lane, he really wants to go into this brush, because if Caps has a ward here and this ward, the only way he can be ganked is, again, via a full wraparound wall play. So Brox is either gonna get the gank angle onto Caps if he stays in lane, or he's gonna wrap around and kill Caps at this tri-brush. So Brox's path here can't be better. He actually nails the path super well, because there's just no way for Caps to enter lane there and not in one way or the other be owned, apart from just trying to stick on river brush. But you're very unlikely to just put down a very shallow river brush ward. You want to put down a tri-brush ward so that the normal paths are taken away. So I think it's that Broxer just had a really good read on the scenario, and it's not like every single time he goes that way he gets a kill. His worst case scenario is, oh, weird, Caps put down a very shallow river control ward, I'm going to clear that one out. The best case scenario is that he gets the kill. Caps. So he disengages to Krugs. The ward times out. You wonder if that ward timeout was exactly on point, but he's there for the counter gank in mid lane. How long had Wonder been 6 at this point? Wonder had been 6 for kind of 20 seconds. You don't have Ignite on Wonder, but still all in onto Squishy Twisted Fate is the reason that Aurelia versus Zoe was so one-sided. Against most control mages, it normally goes the same. And Brox is there for that as well. So at this point, you just want to give him the benefit of the doubt that he knew the ward would also be fading when it did, because Broxer was able to subvert every G2 warding trend and also pull off proactive ganks. Like, this couldn't have been a better first 7 minutes. Like, he's just fucking popping off in this 7 minutes. Like, this is awesome jungling from Agragas. Did he even pop Predator this game? He hasn't popped Predator. He just got Predator. Watch the icon. He hasn't popped Predator at all in the game. He has no Keystone. And he's 3-0-1 because he was ahead of the play and reacting to the play and making plays. Like, you can't pop off harder on Gragas pre 6 minutes than 3-0-1 as Predator Gragas. Like, you have to be so fucking Galaxy Brain to be everywhere you need to be, because it's not like G2 made any poor plays in those kills. Again, the only really categorically poor play was Caps just solo dying to Bwipo. Obviously, that was awful. But other than that, all of Brox's kill involvements have been him being really smart. So Yankos is second Predator of the game. Broxer popped Predator the one time he needed it. So how does this start? It's a very common Yankos gank spot on Olaf. He very often will cap the river and go for a long gank, and this is very much about lane state. Cap says, look, he's going to be pushed in, we can chase him down, and Olaf's level 6, so he'll be able to get a kill. Notice Cap's level 5 when this play starts. What was Broxer doing before that got him to go topside? Broxer had recalled, got most of his first item, going to red buff. He goes straight past red buff, even though there are no warning signs here, because Bwipo is letting him know that Caps might attempt to freeze under turret, and then he might be ganked around this spot. And to be fair, Bwipo is super gankable when he spends a lot of time around this area. This is a very common area for a team with an Akali or an Aurelia to try to all-in you, because you're in the bad spot in the lane, and in a long lane, Renekton's double dash is not going to be enough. Olaf's going to be able to chase down. So Broxer either gets a communicator from Bwipo or reads that he needs to be topside to help with the roam, help with the push-in, to allow the full reset for the Renekton. And skipping the, and this sort of a game, skipping the like red buff, again looks Galaxy Brain in the play. Caps level 5. Broxer doesn't hit level 6 from this play. Needs minions to die to do that. Still level 5. He has 402 with no ult on Gragas, which is just disgusting. Reading the play, being ahead of the play. Oh, stuff like this is cheating. Like, Broxer's a really good jungler. Like, I've always been a really big fan of Broxer. Don't get me wrong. It was disappointing to see the spring season. But in games like this, when this happens, you pause the game at 7 minutes 50. You guys are familiar with the concept of Occam's razor, right? Like, let's find the actual dictionary definition so I do justice. Occam's razor is a principle from philosophy. Suppose there exist two explanations for an occurrence. In this case, the one that requires the least speculation is usually correct. Another way of saying it is that the more assumptions you have to make, the more unlikely an explanation. So we talk about Occam's razor a lot, which is like the simplest explanation usually is right. Here's a question for you. If you're playing in this game especially, but even watching it, isn't Occam's razor that Broxer had map hacks more likely than Broxer just read every scenario correctly with complex information? Like, Isn't that crazy to think about? Like, it's actually simpler to think that he was cheating. You know what I mean? Like, if you like, he's been this good on Gragas pre-6 that cheating makes more sense. Like, that's how big brain he was in this game. And like, we've reviewed and watched a lot of League of Legends, and like, who else could have been that you couldn't have played better? It's impossible. You couldn't script AI to jungle better than he did in this early game. Like, actually amazing. And shout out to Broxah, because, you know, he had a lot of sad interviews in spring season. Fnatic finally understood, and they understood this kind of week 7 of LEC spring, but also in towards summer, is that Fnatic used to play around Caps being the player with pressure, to play his super aggro style, and to also take a lead role in the shot calling, because Caps is a big talker, through his power in his lane and his ability to always do well as long as you gave him control. And that's why Broxah, you know, he had his Lee Sin pop-off games, but largely he was very much a Caps facilitator when Caps was on the team, especially as Caps' stature kind of rose over the course of summer season last year. And he tried to just remake the same playstyle around Nemesis. And I think Nemesis came in playing a lot more defensive champs. Like, when I think of Nemesis pool, his defining champion before he came into LEC, it was like Kassadin, right? It was a really kind of passive style Kassadin, and then late game team fighting. And Nemesis had played aggressive champs, but I had seen that most recently, you know, when he was still signed to Fnatic but still playing on Mad Lions. And so they just tried to plug and play him. There's just no other Caps. Like, there's no player, and the reason why I call Caps unique is that he's a player who will, if he needs to, play for his lane. Like, he can win both sides of the Sylas-Akali matchup, but he also will just give up a lane matchup and roam top lane to get kills if he thinks that's going to win his team the game, even though other laners would look at that. I'm thinking of like the kind of Frog and Faker old school and be like, but you're roaming when you could have frozen, or you're roaming when you could have gotten a bigger gold lead so you can just shove the casters in faster later. Caps is just like, screw it, I'm going top because Wanda needs this lead to win the game, which is the unique thing about Caps, that he can play both for his own lane and super selflessly. So there is no other Caps, and Nemesis isn't good at doing both those things. You know, he can't balance both those things. And I know that's an unfair thing to say about him. Like, I don't think there is another Caps who can do that. So now that they've worked out how Nemesis wants to play, he's very strong on split pushers, and he doesn't need all these resources, and he doesn't need to be played like Caps in the mid lane. I think Broxah took a long, hard look at his own play and understood that there was so many defined weaknesses on the top side for Fnatic, where Bwipo just, you knew, was never going to get any attention, so like, just go collect your free kills. But now that Broxah's opened himself up to play around enemy win conditions and also play around his own win conditions, and also open up the chance that maybe he can just be the carry, you get stuff like this where no longer is Broxah's job to be the summon a spell of mid lane or always guarantee mid lane because mid lane unlocks the victory. It's, what does my team need today and what am I feeling today? And I think that's why we get stuff like this from Broxah, which is so refreshing to see. Like, I was so panicked when I saw the addition of an extra jungler to the lineup, because it couldn't have been a Broxah problem. It had to be more complicated than that. And I think Fnatic have diagnosed their style a lot better. And now that Nemesis is rolled in, like, they look like a really, really strong team. People in chat talking about Caps being level 8 at 5 minutes. I mean, he's died 4 times in 8 minutes, so. Like, you know how we were talking about the CKPM stat, which is combined kills per minute? The CKPM Caps kills per minute is 0.5 out of 10, which is like the same as some entire teams have in terms of deaths. So that lets you know that it's been a roughie. And yet, this happens. Caps hits level 6, instant all-ins, and we were talking about the Akali all-in onto Twisted Fate in the 1v1. He never got that lane and instantly walks to mid and gets a free kill. If you're wondering how he's so confident to make this play, Nemesis, his only defense against level 6 Akali is to gold card. He auto picks card. He shoves in. He doesn't hold on. He doesn't actually pick gold. Tries to use blue for trade harass, not knowing that he's at 5.99 and dies. There's no way to live here. His flash is down. Instantly, that moment, he's dead. Because the gold card cooldown is too long. Well, I guess you should have dropped the cape. If you dropped the cape, he might have lived. But the cape was just a little bit too much. This is the equivalent of him wearing like a wedding dress and then like a nail getting like caught in it and just like pulling it down. Unlucky. Unlucky. That's why Tango Twisted Fate is the best skin. You know it. You know it's true. I think Nemesis didn't expect that damage from 1-4 Akali with 20 CS. See, the thing is, that's not anything to do with items. Like, he only has Hex Tech, right? But Akali's burst range onto squishy Twisted Fate, like, Twisted Fate's 1100 health, right? Q, R1, auto, Q, E, both parts of E, auto, Q, R2. Like, the thing is, he's at the enemy turret with no peel and no flash. So that's fine. It's fine to be chased down and killed like that, because the only thing Nemesis didn't respect was that level 6 could come in instantly. I think he internalized that it was level 5, but literally Caps hit everything, every single spell, with autos to get energy back and stuff like that. So I have no problems with him dying there. The moment that he pulled a blue card instantly for harass and soul level 6, he probably knew he was dead. So I don't have any issues with the Akali getting the kill there. Akali should feast on Twisted Fate in the early game. This is how it goes. So where are we at in terms of this game? I can move the cursor away. 2,400 gold, 1,000 gold lead between the mid laners. 1,300 gold lead between the top laners, but obviously Aurelia was in the mid lane. Bot lane has been super non-interactive. Do we have the gold lead for bot lane? Let's check that out. Oh, 1 second too late. 4,800 versus 53. So about 500 gold lead. That's before the quest is cashed in, so I think that's probably fine. That's decent. The bot lane has been entirely free farm, and that just means that Karma can put all her brain into like shielding and poking back. So there's just no way to take it out. Does Pro View look better? Let's find out. Not really. It was beautifully played by Caps. You can learn a lot about Akali from that. So free farm lane gives you guys an idea of, you know, as I was talking about, I was like, okay, yes, there's some potential in Ezreal Yuumi, but I don't think Karma might take that much harass. I think you can see it was pretty minimal harass level there. Oh, this play. This play was so pog. Now, I have two questions. Bwipo was trying to push in, dies. That was the same play that we talked about with minion wave pushing. What is with this? Like, how often do you for sure get the kill and get out here against... Because you're going to throw one gold card that has an internal cooldown. You're going to need a bit of time to kill off the Aurelia, assuming you kill her. And Jankos, yes, doesn't have Ragnarok, but he has Flash. So how often do you actually get to pull the second gold card and live? I feel like it's a pretty low percentage chance, but the follow is obviously super pog with the Akali E. It's a really cool ability. Bwipo called for it right away, but Nemesis hesitated. Yeah, it's a really poor roam here from Nemesis. So whether he called for it and it wasn't responded to, or Nemesis saw it wrong, I guess it's good to know that it was a poor decision by Nemesis. I need to hear the comms sync to know if Bwipo called for it as fast as he thought and it was too late for caps. Like, it's actually really important to see that rolling to know how early Bwipo called for the TP. But yeah, it was pretty embarrassing destiny there from the TF. The mechanic is, if you hit the E, you can always follow anywhere. I love the fact that he changed direction, though, which is just epically amusing. He gets to hold his ultimate. He only used E in that and got to roam top lane. Carly should have taken Ignite, confirmed. And now G2 try to find a way to snowball the game by going for an unexpected lane swap. So let's talk about the lane state before any of this happens. So Carly, last seen getting kills topside, goes bot lane with the jungler to try to chase down Ezreal Yuumi. That's a very interesting roam timing. TP into mid lane as this play happens. So important there was a zombie ward to spot the start of this because it makes it so much harder. And then Fnatic call TP, but Bwipo is actually TPing in front of the enemy. Was Irelia already in lane? No. That's just a mistake from Bwipo. He shouldn't have teleported there. He teleported in vision. Bwipo baited the... Like, it was... this TP play was called reactively for sure on the bottom side, but doing it in vision from Bwipo is not correct. You have to be in a brush at minimum to make that play happen. They get the kill from it, though. The ward's actually pinged out. Interesting. Who's the ward pinged out by? Oh, they pinged that Gragas is topside onto Wander, but I guess he had already accepted his doom. He baited Aurelia's stun for a free dive with Broxa. I can't... that's such a hard one to give credit for. Because, like, you look at the bot lane state here. Can I really give credit that this was all an elaborate ruse? I don't know. Just like we want to give Occam's Razor to Broxa last time, like I felt this is just a good reactive call. But I very, very much doubt that that was a full-on bait there. Giving up a 6-minute cooldown for a TP is not worth it. So I like the attempt to Galaxy Brain it, but we give Broxa the map hacks, but we don't give Bwipo that. Sorry. You got a lot of value from it, though. Broxa was on the top quadrant to make a play, walked over a ward, but Wander was already dead. They get the Rift Herald from this play, and it ends up being a trade-up. So even though they give away the teleport from Bwipo's kind of bad TP, they actually get more than if he had finished his TP, which... Damn, that was a nice hook. Was this intentional? It has to be a prediction, right? Oh, Hylissang. What a beast. If you guys want to know about how this works, this is intentional. This is 100% intentional. So the way you know it's intentional is, we'll just slow it down. It's very hard to miss hooks if you juke down because the turret is terrain you can't walk on. Yes, I realize we're watching Boxer Walks earlier. So the moment that you're walking in this direction, you can't juke a hook. So you have to flash. The biggest flash distance you can get is over the turret, and that's where Hylissang predicts. Actually, super sick hook. Really, really nice there. But the whole mechanic is, because the structure is giving you less room to flash, the straight line hook will always hit you, so you have to flash this way, and Hylissang sees it. That was sexy. Super sexy. Hylissang, obviously legendary Pike, but he plays that really well. He predicted that Kali was going to E to the side, not flash. That's a good point. Similar space, right? Oh, and he gets the kill too. That is for sure the cigarette, right? I've never smoked in my life, but when you pull off this, like the moment that this passage happens from Hylissang, I've never smoked in my life, and yet I kind of want a cigarette, you know? I'm kind of like, all right. All right, you did it. Like, you just super outplayed. Like, this was definitely Broxah tier. We're definitely at Broxah highest tier list. Hylissang is, like, looking pretty good. Bwipo, unfortunately, is, like, falling away a bit. But, holy moly. When everything comes off, it's so impressive. Wonder comes with a deep teleport. They get away with that with just a single flash. Oh. Man, oh man. 3,500 gold lead. G2's comp needs them to be winning 3 lane, and that's where things start to become a problem. So at this point, the game's not over. The issue that G2 have is they really want to play 3 lanes around getting strong 2v2 skirmishes. Right now, they can't really get the lane assignments they want because they lost Rift Herald. Akali still has no Gunblade at 13 minutes. It's going to be a very late Gunblade. So, still at this item point, Akali does have some kill pressure on TF if he wastes his gold card. Probably not going to happen, but some. The problem they have is that TF with one more MR item actually takes too long for Akali to kill realistically with a stopwatch, maybe with Wit's End and stuff like that. And Olaf's jungle is going to continue to be warded up because the team is falling behind and losing things. Like they're going to lose most of this turret here. So given that they can't deal with this and this champion is behind, we're approaching the time where this draft doesn't really do much unless they can actually find and inject some gold into the game for themselves now. They desperately need that. But the enemy is super fast Karma to bring in the Pyke at light speed, Twisted Fate Destiny, and then only really one place Broxah needs to be is around Bwipo because these 3 people can join one lane really fast. So it's actually really hard right now for G2 to force things and to get things, and they have to find a way to do that right now. If they can't find something soon, then the gold lead to Fnatic and their simpler to execute comp causes them a lot of trouble. So Wonder pushes in a wave. We saw that. Walks forward to clear ward and just straight up dies. No, he's killing Scuttle even. They actually just go for Scuttle, wonder if he's there, and he instantly dies. Okay. He had a lot of control wards around him, but no deep vision. I really hope he had a big item completion from that Scuttle. It's not actually that bad from Wonder, because you look at the vision play, and they had a lot of spotting vision. They just had no deep vision. So that level of people collapsing on him was like a little bit unlikely, but it obviously looks really bad in hindsight. And he didn't even get the Scuttle, so oh well. Like, these are the sort of plays that will happen to G2 when they fall really far behind with their playstyle, because they are very much a take things, ask questions later kind of team. And obviously from behind, Pyke, Karma, Twisted Fate, easy to wambo, slam you in there and get you. Talked about it, but in case you guys didn't watch the live broadcast, Hylissang goes to carry in this matchup, and Reckless does his best Janna impersonation. Hylissang's so greedy. All right, Hylissang, you're going down on that tier list. Brox is still Galaxy Brain, but it's Ragnarok Olaf, and the mid lane can clearly come by. They're not even under turret clearing minions. Jesus. Gives away 450 gold spree here. That was important for G2. Like, that could have been the start of something. That was really dumb. He just didn't think. He saw an enemy champ and he thought he could kill him. And VOD calls it. He makes the best and worst play of the game. The thing is, like, you see plays like this, right? Where Hilly ints, and you're like, if only Hilly could stop doing that. But, see, a lot of people, like, ask me about Noguri, and they're like, wouldn't he be the best top laner in the world if he just got smarter around the map? But the thing is, the trade-off of getting smarter around the map, something that clearly doesn't come natural to him as a top laner, would have to affect something else. There'd be some other part of his game that he couldn't focus on because he's focused on looking at the map better. And I think with Hylissang, you accept the 20 IQ plays because he makes at least 200 IQ plays for every 20 IQ play. And I think if you just tried to sand away the 20 IQ plays, you would get less 200 IQ plays from it. I don't think you can ever just remove all of your weaknesses and only accentuate your strong points. It's not how it goes. It has to be a trade backwards and forwards. So I think for Fnatic fans, you have to embrace the Hilly good and bad, because I think you get so many amazing moments where he like brings in the Baron buff with the Rakan to backdoor an inhibitor against a Jarvan in the last time these teams played, and you get the really nice engage before. Like, there's a lot to like about Hylissang, but he has very amusing flaws. So how can G2 set up the map in order to get a win somewhere? Fnatic have Gragas. Literally, Gragas just has to play in Renekton's hand, in Renekton's pocket if he's against Akali, or he can actually play wherever he wants if he's against the Irelia. And then G2 have no win condition anymore because they have no way to take over the map and get something out of Olaf. Gragas can be anywhere. Olaf has no good places to be. So I like the Broxer actually clearly listened to what we were saying in the previous point in the game and said, and I was like, Twisted Fate, Karma, and Pyke will come to you. Just play around Renekton to ensure Renekton's strong, and G2 have no way to play the game. Oh. That's a lot of damage. The cute cat died very fast. How did this all start? Oh, I was going forward instead of back. So Reckless died because they got the play down bot lane, so they knew they outnumbered. That was a good play from G2. They forced Nemesis out of the jungle, just taking over the enemy red-eyed jungle. But Broxer and Whippo are walking up. Of course they are, right? G2 had to be expecting that. So they're hugging top side. The moment Nemesis isn't under threat and still has ult, the chase here is pretty insane. Like, there's no way out from this one. G2 had to disengage much earlier. So in terms of the play, this play onto Reckless is super good. Arcane Shift with the final chapter that's awesome kill onto Reckless. It's a 1-for-1 overall. But the moment that they committed Ragnarok in order to get into Nemesis, and then they're positioning here, if you look, they're positioning to kill under turret rather than positioning to get out, then they're just, unfortunately, playing a different game. Like, this positioning is for the G2 game where they didn't int in the early game, and there's more kills to clean up and get out because you're a little bit healthier with more items. Like, you got, say, for example, 1 item on Irelia, a jungle enchant to go along with the Black Cleaver, 1 item, 2 items for perks. Like, 16 minutes, Ezreal should have 2 items, Irelia should have a Trinity Force. They don't have either of those, and yet they're posturing for more kills when bot lane's walking up. And that's the part where G2 are trolling a bit, is that they're no longer playing for the tempo of this game. They're playing for the tempo of a different game where they played better in the early game. Good point in chat. Pyke has flash up as well. Like, this is where G2's kind of dunking it off. But the early game was much more about Brox's Galaxy Brain than G2's poor plays outside of specifically the Caps level 1 death, right? Caps gets blown up. Again, the Arcane Shift final chat is so cool from G2's side. Like, that kill, the kill onto the Karma was free, and then it's a 1-for-1 from behind where you got something. But they're just not respecting bot lane collapsing at all. Like, that's the kind of shocking thing here from the G2 side is their positioning after the first one, after the 1-for-1 makes no sense for this game state. That this does feel like relentless aggression rather than the calculated aggression that G2 often gets attributed to. So people will use words like tilted and things like that. Like, I think those are going too far, but it does feel like their read on this game was off at this point, right? Their radar was off. And then Gragas just continues to play on Renekton's side of the map, and then there's no good places to go. Returning to Karma and Pyke, best of luck with that. They're obviously very, very hard to catch. Nemesis can join wherever possible. Hillsong, very up front. Oh, got interrupted by that was a really nice stun to interrupt here. Even with Hillsong, this frontline, it doesn't matter because there's just too much of a effective item lead now for Fnatic. Like, they can even siege. Not great, but they can walk up. Jesus. Does he... I need to slow this down. Is there an auto here, or is this only full stack Ruthless Predator? Wow. That's just the W, right? There's no other ability. The Q definitely doesn't hit from here. This is really good from Whippo. He actually knew full damage range. To be fair, he is 7-kill Spear of Shojin, Black Cleaver, and Pickaxe. Press the attack probably procs there. So it's like the press the attack damage. How much damage was that? Perks has 480 health and dies instantly to Flash W. Now, with all those damage items, probably fair enough, but... Jesus. That's really well done by Buppo. Very, very assertive there. Nice to see. And then you can understand that everyone else from G2 is like way out of position after their AD carry instantly dies, right? If Perks had gone Iceborne Gauntlet, he wouldn't have died to a one-shot there. But read the situation. Look at Whippo on the bottom left. He's like, well, it worked out, I guess. It's kind of the look on his face. Damn. Really nice and assertive. I think that's where the stats we talked about with the combined kills per minute for Fnatic being so much higher in summer bears out. Is my big takeaway from Fnatic in this series is everyone has done something, right? Hillsong has made a 200 IQ play. He's made a 20 IQ play. Nemesis has gone for some pretty good ults, but I would say he's been the most passive of the players. Broxah was everywhere making decisive engages, and we praised how Broxah in the turret dive from here made the very assertive rundown to give Wonder nowhere to kite out in the earlier fight. Like, everyone from Fnatic is looking proactively to get more. And that's not what I saw from Fnatic in spring season. And that's why my opinion of Fnatic in summer was elevated, because they're very good at pulling the trigger. And the confidence is there among all 5 players to do so. Good call that the dodge of the Aurelia E doesn't actually say... He would still have lived, but it does look very nice that he used the E to get away from there. I mean, Reckless is just basically Sivir, right, in this game, except he doesn't have to auto-attack, so he's Frostmancy Sivir, just pressing R and RE and just being fine. But this is the Fnatic, I think, people wanted to see in spring, but they were the sum of what they weren't, i.e. they were the sum of what the team looked like with Caps gone. Now they're just Fnatic, and I think that's... Now they're actually legit good. Like, at the end of spring season, if you ask me who would win Rift Rivals between NA and EU, I would have easily called NA because I actually thought Fnatic were very predictable in how they wanted to play out the game, but had some good players, but I don't think had a lot of spice, and Origin kind of found them out. And I actually thought that C9 and TSM would continue to grow, but Fnatic have really leveled up in my estimations in summer. I think they look really good, like a top team in the world rather than just a pretty good team in Europe. So I actually think now NA has no chance against EU with the level that Fnatic's gotten to. So feel free to call me out on like underplaying Fnatic from spring. I wasn't that impressed with them in spring season, like I'm saying. But I think they're actually really strong right now. They've worked out what they want to do with Nemesis. When the flat pen and Gragas gets ahead, you know what what's the funniest point of this play? The funniest thing about this play is Hylissang, who is too slow to ult. You know your team's doing way more damage than expected when you watch the ult timing here from Hylissang. He's too late even to get an assist. That is how much damage they're already doing. It's insane. He's like in the air. It's like he's celebrating. He's like, hooray, yatta! It's not Japanese, but you get what I'm saying. Nemesis learned how to pull the gold cards. Obviously from here, it's mostly just going to be clean it up. Yeah. What a Broxah masterclass in this game. I remember the conversations when we were watching him in group stages of Worlds. And everyone was like enamored with Broxah in that tournament and being like, this guy might just be the best jungler in the world. And then spring, obviously, they were trying to change their style and they couldn't really work out how to fit him in. But even with all that, like, he hasn't had a game quite like this. The 6 successful kill involvements pre-first popping his Predator or hitting level 6 is like... Yeah, it is too much damage at this point. Now you're just a peanut gallery. Like, at this point, there's never a chance G2 could ever come back because they can never get anything out of their side lane pressure because 3 and 7 Akali with 4 death Olaf, not going to do anything. Renekton just goes in the Aurelia lane, not going to do anything. Brock's going to path wherever he wants because Renekton can just do everything in every lane, 1v2. Like, the map is now their oyster on the side of Fnatic. They can do whatever they want. But the game was won early. And this is actually to answer a question from chat. There was a very good question asking about Riot is separating out game time and game pace. They say the game time is fine, but the game pace is not. This is another game where realistically around 20, around 17, 18 minutes, the game was effectively over unless Fnatic made 5 brain fade colossal mistakes. And that's what Riot means about game pace being fast, in that games can snowball even if sometimes the team isn't good enough to end pre-32 minutes. There really is only one team winning. It's kind of like, do they wrap it up in the nicest bow? Do they tutorial victory? Do they, style on them and dive the Nexus 5 times but keep the game going? That's what Riot means by game pace. Like, I think this is another reminder that if there's a lot of games like this, then game pace is an issue. Now, this was on an LEC day where a lot of the other games were slow. So this is not just a typical LEC game. That this is very much G2 playing G2 style and Fnatic opting into it. But these are the games I think that give Riot a bit of pause. ADTF has hit 3 items, and this is pretty much the strongest point. Like, you can build IE from here, but you're so much more about the gold card burst before the enemy has any armor. There's no armor on the enemy team, so watch, even Nemesis' damage feels out of order. He's doing insanely huge damage. So, I mean, we're not slowing down these plays, right? Like, we don't slow down for the wallet smacks. This is very much just Fnatic have all the gold, all of the control in the game, and they're just looking to close it here, which was well deserved. This is an impressive victory from Fnatic. I wonder what the scouting report on G2 is for, say, TSM or Team Liquid or C9 after this game. Because, you want to think of ways you could possibly beat G2. Like you don't want to get slammed by them. You wonder what there is to learn that you could actually expect G2 to do again. That's the thing, is like Caps dying 1v1 is not something you can recreate. So that part is out. From there, Fnatic did a lot of good stuff and were just way more proactive than most North American teams are. Like, I watched the LCS and the LEC, and NA teams still really lack the ability to play proactive and close out games quickly. So I just find it so hard to expect an NA team to emulate what Fnatic could bring here. And you don't really learn what to abuse from G2 outside of Caps' hubris and like maybe Wonder face-checking a river that he sort of had control on and sort of didn't. So, yeah. Good chat. Good one from Matthew W. Folks in chat. The scouting report reads, and download map hacks. I mean, import Broxa is an antonym to that, but I think perhaps the timeline there is a bit shorter. Even on the outside kills, like they can get a bit of gold here, but shut down money. Chat's already concerned. Like, hands off Broxa, please. Well, Fnatic are millions of miles ahead. If this is around the world in 80 days, Fnatic's ready to cut the ribbon, and G2's still stuck at the second continent, so it's a problem. Nemesis pops in, AD build, backdoors really fast. They close the game. Really interesting game between G2 and Fnatic. I'm sure there's people in the chat right now who did this at home, because Fnatic, very loyal fam. Every time like I hear like Dracos being like, oh, it sounds like a 50-50 chant on the stream, I can only hear Fnatic. So I'm sure the fan base is super hyped on this side. Yeah, I mean, this was like a legendary performance from Broxa. Like, that's the one you put in the time capsule. Like, Broxa, if he was, like, concerned about mortality, he just popped that in the time capsule and he could die happy. He'd be like, I did it. I beat League of Legends. Like, he should just become a Teamfight Tactics pro gamer now. Like, you can't have a better game than that. It's impossible. What a early game from Broxa. He was unbelievably great. And Fnatic were just super proactive. Like, they played really well. In this game. Like, it was very impressive to watch them play throughout this. And I was asked last week, who do you think is going to win Fnatic versus G2? And I wasn't sitting here being like, I think that Fnatic's going to win, because I think that's the wrong prediction, because you don't know what G2 you're going to get. But if it's the best possible G2, that seems to be the best team in the world. But to my credit, you can scrub through the VOD. I don't know how I have a timer, but I did say, I think this is going to be way closer than people think, because Fnatic have shown a lot to me in summer. And this is the realization of that. I think this is the best possible game they could have played, where, yes, they got an invitation from the poor play from Broxa. So not Broxa, Caps in the top. But they smelled blood and they got in there. And it was really impressive. Apparently Fnatic Twitter tweeted about me. I didn't see that. I guess I should check it before I'm done. They clipped out my thing. All right, well, Fnatic gets a freebie then, some free advertising. They deserve it. My boy Broxa. Next time I see him, I'm going to give him a hug and I'm going to be like, remember that Friday in June. It doesn't rhyme like September, but damn, what a game from him. Yeah. G2, very easy loss to cast aside. Very easy loss to cast aside for G2. But because, again, in the review, there was no part where you were like, oh, G2, like the draft, I think, is probably the one where I'm like, it was optimistic and they got found out. To G2's side, I also wouldn't have predicted they would just roll in with Karma Pike. The Yuumi first works perfectly if they get the Pike. The moment the Pike was denied and turned into a cool lane that had synergy, the duo, they had to fall back to Ezreal Yumi, and they had to fall back to a first round that didn't get them a lot. The Akali's a nice pick for Caps, but not as bonkers overpowered as it was. They really, they weren't set up to succeed, and then like a solo kill came in. I think G2, it'll be very interesting to watch how they back this performance up in the LEC. It's going to be hard to tell from Rift Rivals, but if you tell me this is the start of their downfall, I'm going to say that this data point needed way more information. But if you tell me this is when the Fnatic fans start to get fucking excited, just like KT fans did when Monty got excited, I'd be there with you. I think Fnatic fans should be excited. They look really good in this series. And they have some great talent now that they've worked out what they're doing with Nemesis in particular. So, yeah, really good performance from them. So that's going to close out my third and final VOD review. Cool series between G2 and Fnatic. I was afraid it was just going to be a clown fiesta, but I think it was a lot more rich than that from my viewing. I know there's other VOD reviews out there. Shout out to Vedius and Locodoco, who both did VOD reviews. If you just go to YouTube and type in Vedius or Locodoco, you'll get to their channels. It's probably one of those series that's short enough that you could watch from different perspectives. I'm going to take a quick break, go to the bathroom, answer questions, and close up the stream. So playing some ads now if you want to stay for those. I'll also shout out anyone who decided to subscribe or donate during that game or does future. But short break, I'll be back. Thank you very much for watching on this one, and we'll be back shortly.